Welcome to Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing, one of the fastest growing real estate investing podcasts in the world. What if you could learn from experienced real estate investors? Find out what got them to where they are now. Get insight into their daily habits and take these insights to inspire your own growth. Each episode, Jonathan Greene shares an in-depth look at the mindful approach to real estate investing. Jonathan is a lifelong real estate investor and the founder of Streamline, a data-driven, investor-friendly, independent real estate brokerage located in Madison, New Jersey. Whether you're looking to start from scratch, get to the next level, or just for a straightforward and honest approach to real estate investing, this is the free mentorship program you can take with you anywhere. Now, here's Jonathan.
Thanks for showing up for another episode of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing. And we're going solo again today. And now we're going to go with real estate investing lessons from my dad. Now, this is an interesting show. It's obviously an homage, but it's really interesting because the things that my dad taught me growing up when I was a kid in the 70s and in the 80s, and then even as I was an adult in the 90s before he passed away, are all still relevant. I use some of his exact words and then some I made into my own, but they're all his ideas, and you're going to get 10 of them right now. This is episode 347 of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing. And I've got a solo show again, back to back, maybe not for the first time, but first time in a long time. This show is Real Estate Investing Lessons from my dad. There's 10 of them, and we just did the 10 best book shows, so we're on a roll with lists. If you don't know that much about me, I was a rigid kid. I was also very much a list maker. I still am. So making lists and then being able to deliver them in podcast form is becoming fun for me. And the solo episodes are actually really fun for me. I've been getting some feedback from some of my friends who I know listen. They're liking the solo shows. I hope you are as well. We obviously are always booking. We've got a lot of guests coming up in the hopper, but these are a great way to get just one-on-one directives with me. Again, these are usually going to be about 30 minutes instead of the normal 60 minutes when I have a guest. So it cuts down your listening time during the week to make sure while you're in your car, walking, working out, wherever you listen to podcasts, you can get all the episodes into your brain. So you've probably learned, if you've been listening to the podcast for a long time, we're almost at episode 350, that my dad was really the inspiration to my real estate investing career. I didn't really have a choice. It was just something that I grew up watching him do. And these are lessons that I learned from him. And the reason why it's so important that it works with the kind of mission of the podcast is the mission was always the mindful approach to real estate investing. And that kind of goes against guru culture, which I've done an episode on as well. And my dad was, again, the OG original type investor who was doing things the right ways, building relationships, talking to people, and trying to make money for his family to create generational wealth. My dad did not come from money. My dad's dad was an alcoholic gambler. So the second that he would get my dad something cool, it would usually get repoed. So my dad had to figure out that stuff. I don't think they were like scratching around for it, but it was a very like, we have money, now we don't have money, all over, moved around a lot. So these are 10 lessons that I got from him and that I've put into practice for myself, sometimes very well and sometimes not so well. It really depends on the year, it depends on my ego, it depends on a lot of things that are going on in my life at the time, how well I use these lessons. So if you're ready for it, we'll get right into it. And remember, if you have suggestions on episodes that you want to hear for solos, or if you have guests that you want to throw at me, go to zenandtheartofrealestateinvesting.com, go to the contact page, send us an email, comes directly to me. I actually read it. Let's go. Real estate investing lessons from my dad. His name was Stephen C. Greene. Refer to him by that. You surely know that his catchphrase was "Don't rush life," coming out with a shirt with his face on it and his signature, and "Don't rush life" on the back. So look out for that. But number one, hey, big surprise. Number one is don't rush life. I've told the story many times, but when it comes to investing, it's so important. The second that you're rushing to quote, throw money away, you're making a mistake. Now, you don't want to go all the way in the other direction and give yourself analysis paralysis or become just so paralyzed from fear, not even from the analysis, that you're too scared to dip your toe in. And that's still both ways. Analysis paralysis and fear paralysis are usually a part and participle of you not knowing enough real estate investors. Because when you know real estate investors, you know that they can do it, so you can do it too, because these aren't people pulling up in fancy cars and stuff. They're just regular people like yourself who just go out and invest in real estate. So when we're talking about don't rush life, it's not only a life principle for you, but when we're talking about real estate investing, it just means don't rush to do something just because somebody told you to do it, or don't rush the transaction. Don't rush the acceptance. In hot markets, you do have to push, but you want to make sure that's why you're always educated in advance, so that if you do have to move quickly, you don't feel like that's the rush. If you've caused the rush, you're putting yourself in a problem. Like if you haven't gotten a pre-approval or you don't have your proof of funds set up, that's your fault. So you want to show up for the next deal ready. And I wouldn't embark on a deal if you feel like you're being rushed. Even if it is seem like it's going to be a really good deal, that's one that you probably want to wait on until you feel comfortable. Because if you act when you're rushed, and I've done a show on this, you might get cold feet. A lot of people who feel like they're rushed, even if they're doing it to themselves because they weren't prepared, will then come around, wait till inspections, and then you end up with a deal failure, which does happen to all of us, as I did a whole show on 5 deal failures. And P.S., I just had another one in upstate New York, literally a couple days ago. So my record is still going. So when we talk about don't rush life for real estate investing, it means don't put yourself in that position where you're not prepared and so you do feel rushed. If you're feeling rushed and it's just because there's a deadline on the deal and there's a lot of offers on the table, that's just a sense of the market. So you're going to have to make a decision, and hopefully you've built up the confidence that you can make a good decision. But you never want to be put in the position where you are feeling rushed to spend whatever, 200,000, 700,000, $1.5 million, whatever it is. Nobody likes to part with those amount of money when you feel rushed. Number 2, it's kind of funny coming from my dad, and this is not a direct quote. These are things that I kind of pulled out from his teachings. The number 2 is don't be stingy, but be firm. Now, in repairs, my dad I wouldn't say he was stingy, but he fixed a lot of stuff himself. So it was more like putting gum in a hole than getting a contractor to come and do it. He figured out how to do a lot of things without YouTube. He just kind of knew how to figure stuff out and fix things. But when I say don't be stingy, this goes to what you're doing in a transaction. How many transactions have I seen fail between investors buying or investors selling, and the other side when people are arguing over a nominal amount or something in the house? You're either going to leave this or a $500 credit, or the house was messy and it's going to cost $200 to clean. I get it. These things, especially right at the end, are probably going to piss you off, but you have to step back and take a look at it and say, is this amount of money worth killing the deal over? Your ego will tell you yes. My ego tells me yes every single time somebody does something that I don't like, because it just kind of, I'm on the spectrum. So it really pushes my buttons when things go outside of the way that I expected them to go. But for you, you have to control your ego and really look at the amount of money. Now, if it's like a $20,000 issue at the end, that's not being stingy. That's like investigating what's smart. But if we're talking about $250, $500 on a $500,000 deal, come on, man, that's just silly. It's silly to really break yourself over that. But on the other side of this equation, you do need to be firm, and you don't want people pushing you around in a transaction. When it comes to small things, yeah, usually I'm just going to give those away. But I do have an ego, and sometimes I just really don't want to give in that last point. And because my philosophy is I can always walk away, which is probably something that's going to come up later, I will sometimes get petty over something like that. It's not what I would suggest, though. If you're doing it because it's a real transactional element and you really feel that there's like part of you that's being aggrieved in the transaction, not personally, because it's not personal. It shouldn't be that emotional. These are investment properties we're talking about. Don't be stingy, but be firm. So when it comes time to be firm, you're firm. But again, when it's at the last minute, you have to see who has the leverage. Is the seller really not going to close over $300? If I'm the buyer, sometimes I'm just going to see if he's going to do that, he or she or they. Really, you don't want to close. You want to go back on the market and go through another 60-day closing and start showing again because you don't want to credit the $300 because you left something in the house that I have to move and it's going to cost that much. I might call their bluff on that. I might. But if you're on the other side of that and you're the seller and somebody's requesting $300 because you left a bunch of stuff in there, just let them take the $300. You want to close that day. You want to get your money, right? When you're selling stuff, you want money. You don't want to repeat the process. So you have to look at the whole set of circumstances and really take a choice to see which side you're on. Are you being stingy or are you being firm? Or are you just being a smart business person by allowing them to have the moment? Sometimes you have to eat a little bit of dirt in a transaction. It's hard to do. I can tell you from myself that I don't like it. I really don't like it. But when it comes to an asset that I want to get, I will do it because it will pay off in the long run if you do it. That was 1 and 2. Number 3, I think I just prefaced it. This, I wouldn't say I'm much better at this than my dad, but my dad was a calmer version of this. So it's learn to walk away. Your biggest power as a real estate investor and anyone involved in real estate is the ability to walk away. In a transaction where it's 1-to-1 and there's no backup offers and there's no one else involved, if you're the buyer, the seller wants to sell. If you walk away, they need to repeat the process. You have leverage in that situation. If they have 20 backup offers, you don't have as much leverage. If you're the buyer and the seller has a property that you feel like you snuck a good offer in quickly and they're going to get other offers, they have more leverage than you. If it's been sitting for 193 days and you presented a pretty reasonable offer and now they start messing around, you have the leverage. And the best leverage that you can advance on is to walk from the deal. It's one of the things that I'm an expert on. And of course, I got it from my many years of negotiating things as a trial attorney. And, most cases don't go to trial, but we would have 300 cases in a division, like would come up on just one docket call. And we need to negotiate those puppies out. And I needed to call the bluffs on people who were going to go to trial and who were not. So I would just say, I'll go to trial on anything. It's the only way I could get the docket less. And in the same vein, but in the opposite form, when it comes to real estate, I'll walk away from any deal. There's no deal that I'm that excited about that I'm going to kind of double over myself to get when I feel like somebody's doing something to me that I don't like. So this does go to the last one for being firm, but you also walking away sometimes is what you have to do to get them to realize where they're at. Again, if you're the buyer, they're the seller, they've had no offers in 6 months and you lay a good offer on the table, maybe they think it's a little low, they accept, and then they start hemming and hawing and playing games. I'll just walk right from the table. No problem. And sometimes when, as you heard in my episode on the ones about my transactions failing, when I'm in a transaction and the balance is off and somebody gives me an out, I take it because I feel like the karma's off in the transaction and I'm out. And I would say that's similar to in personal relationships. Like if you're in a relationship and then somebody says, oh, maybe we should break up. If that's me, I say, yep. If you're bringing that up, we're just going to break up. Maybe that's why I'm not that great at relationships, but I don't like the karma of that situation. So when someone gives me an out or they threaten to cut in the transaction, I'll say, no problem. Good luck. We'll move on. I just don't want to play the games. The more straightforward you are in real estate investing, the further you will get. You do not have to be unscrupulous or fake in order to get deals. The more straightforward, honest, and respectful you are, the more deals will come to you. You'll be able to win deals because they know you're a closer. That's especially true as an agent. They can rely on you to make sure that you're going to close the transaction. So, number 1, don't rush life. Number 2, don't be stingy, but be firm. Number 3, learn to walk away. Number 4, this is a tough one from my childhood. Sell anything if someone will pay you enough. This is a tough one. You ever like contact an off-market seller and they say, oh yeah, it's no big deal, I'm not selling. And you'd say to them, if you know the script very well, it's like, oh, well, if you were to sell, do you have a number in mind that you would sell for? And they're like, no, I'm not selling. And then you say, well, I mean, if someone were going to just give you X, whatever it is, $1 million, would you take $1 million? And it's a $300,000 house. Oh yeah, sure. I take $1 million. Okay. Well, what's the least amount that you would take if someone were to just offer it you right now to sell the property? Now it gets their brain going a little. Everybody has a number for everything. I can guarantee you, even a spec home built by a builder, you pay them enough, they're going to sell it. It's just the way that real estate and markets work. Everybody has a number. It might be super high, but it might not be as high as you think. And if you can get down to that, you'll be able to figure out what you can do. You should always know what your sell number is, just in case. Just in case someone puts that, that letter in your mailbox. Hey, we're Bob and Susie. We're looking to buy a house in your neighborhood. We know that the market's hot. We're willing to overpay over value by X%. I mean, I'll give Bob and Susie a call if I were interested. I personally, right now, if I got that letter, I wouldn't call them back. But also, if somebody told me like they'll give me 2X the value on my house, I will sell. I just go somewhere else. It would annoy me, but money's good. If someone wants to overpay me for a property, that's the way it works. And when you've built up the time and you've been there 3, 4, 5, 6, 14 years that you've held a property, the money starts to look pretty good. You're going to trade it. Maybe you do a 1031. Maybe you have other ideas on it, but properties are built to trade. We don't stay in homes our whole lives. Generally, we move. Used to be every 7 years. Now it's almost back up to 14 with the golden handcuffs. But if someone comes to the table, don't be crazy. If someone wants to overpay you for a property and they're overpaying you and it's more than the value and they're not going to be, an appraisal that's going to cut that down, I would consider that at any point in your life, because this is exactly what my dad used to do. He would buy a house, he would renovate it, we would move in, me on the weekends, we would love it. It would have all the cool shit that we like, basketball court, tennis court. He just liked to build crazy stuff. If you go back to one of my last episodes where I talked about him just bartering for bulldozers, that's real. So he just building stuff. He liked to buy land, get more land, build more stuff. Did he get all the proper permits? I mean, just going to say probably, but I'd actually doubt it. But if you're willing to sell for a price, there's always a price. So the long story is, my favorite house that we ever had in Chappaqua, he's picking me up one weekend and he's like, oh, we're going to move. And I'm like, oh my God, this house is the best. Why are we moving? He told me how much money we bought it for, how much money he put in, how much money we were going to get on the sale. And I said, that makes sense. Let's go get some baseball cards. So I understood money and transactional real estate at that time and before, because he was telling me and talking to me like I was an adult. So sell anything if someone will pay you enough. If it's good enough at the time. So when I sold one of my last houses, I did very well on it. And then I saw a few years later, the person I sold to, they did very well on it. And I wasn't like, oh, I could have made an extra, $300,000, which I could have if I stayed, but I didn't want to stay any longer. So I made, $335 from sale price to sale price. They made about $300 from sale price to sale price. So could I have made $635 if I stayed? Sure. But I leveraged and took the money and put it into something else. So when an opportunity comes, don't just say no right away. Make sure you take the time, think about it, negotiate if you want, but never say never. Number 5, my dad definitely did not say it like this, but this is how I interpret it. Buy weird shit at the right price. Now this goes back to my local episode that I did not that long ago. If you haven't listened to that, just go back. It's about how real estate is local. If you're a local real estate investor and you're focused on the real estate market in the area, and you're open to opportunity, you may come across a strip mall. That's how my dad got a weird strip mall in Sebring, Florida, that I eventually lost at foreclosure auction because I forgot about it after he passed away. I literally forgot about a mini mall. Yeah, it's idiotic. I know. They didn't have my address. I wasn't paying the taxes. I don't know. They sold it at a sheriff's sale, and it was one of those things where I just couldn't deal with it at the time. But if you're open to opportunity again, and there's a good price for something, most real estate's not going down. Now, I'm not saying going to buy timeshares or buy land in the Everglades or get hoodwinked. I'm saying in your local market or a market that you know, if an opportunity presents itself in an asset class that maybe you weren't thinking of, maybe again, don't just say no right away. If someone says mixed use and you don't really know what that is, you might want to look into it because it's a very interesting hybrid type of property. I think commercial's a great opportunity if it presents itself at the right time, in the right place, with trending demographics in the right direction. If you're a local connoisseur, you're going to know which way the world's turning in the area. You're going to know, and that means everything in that area is going to become more valuable. So if you're 6 months ahead of Starbucks, you could be in good shape by picking up a commercial and a mixed use and then a small residential house. Maybe you'll do midterm rentals there. There's just so many options for real estate investors. You don't want to close yourself off. So if the price is right, and maybe it's not the asset class, that's why I call it weird shit, maybe you should consider that. Think if someone just offered you, you want to buy a parking lot. You're like, well, I want a parking lot. That sounds dumb. Yeah, if you do the numbers on most parking lots, if they're high traffic, especially when you can charge, you're probably going to do well on that. Oh, I don't want to, someone offers you money near a highway. Oh, that's stupid. I don't want it. Oh, really? I mean, billboards do pretty well. There's a solution for everything in real estate. So if you think outside the box, AKA buying weird shit, you might come into something interesting. All right. Number 1, don't rush life. Number 2, don't be stingy, but be firm. 3, learn to walk away. 4, sell anything if someone will pay you enough. 5, buy weird shit at the right price. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll get back to the back half. Hey, it's Jonathan. I hope you're enjoying this solo episode with the lessons from Stephen C. Greene. On this brief interlude between number 5 and number 6, I just want to give you a reminder that I'm growing a Substack that is related to this podcast. And throughout all of 2026, it's going to be free. Go to trustgreene, that has an E at the end, .substack.com, and you'll see it. It's Zen in the Art of Real Estate Investing, but it's a Substack. It's really all going to be new articles. I'm looking for new ideas to put there too as well. So I'm open to your feedback. Let's get back to the show. All right, let's go. Number 6, I call it ABL. So I like to think of these things. Obviously, ABC is a real estate and thing, always be closing. Then you think of Glengarry Glen Ross, coffee is for closers. That movie has one of the best scenes ever. It's Alec Baldwin's only scene. It's unbelievable. Go watch it. But ABL is always be looking. I've talked about this in several podcasts. My dad would pull over the car at the drop of a hat if he saw a handwritten for sale sign. We would screech into a ditch, all kids spilling Slurpees all over the car, upchuck, anything. Everything crashing to a halt if there was a handwritten for sale by owner sign. I doubt that we ever drove by a piece of real estate with a FSBO sign that was handwritten or with phone number on it, where my dad didn't pull over, get out one of his famous little ripped pieces of paper. That's a whole story in and of itself. Write it down, tell himself a note for later, and then call. We didn't have cell phones when I was a kid, so he would go home. He'd make the call in about the property, and then here goes my dad, schmoozing again. That was what it is. ABL, always be looking. Keep your eyes open. When I drive upstate to show properties for my Zen Upstate brand, which is I'm licensed in New York as a realtor as well. I work for Country House Realty. I go up there, do a lot of short-term rental acquisitions, weekend homes. But when I'm up there, guess what I'm doing? I'm looking at everything while I'm driving. I'm looking at abandoned hotels. I'm looking for weird small self-storage. I'm looking for weird commercial areas where I think that little main street might pop again. I'm always looking. I really think I should pull the car over more. I don't pull the car over enough. And I try to like dictate it to Siri, and then I come back and it's like a garbled mess that doesn't make sense. I tried to say to give me the phone number, I just say it wrong. But you should always be looking. If you're driving and you see something cool, the messier the sign, the better. If it's a nice sign, it's probably listed by a realtor. If it's messy and handwritten, you got something going there. So take my advice, try it out for the next 30 days, and then let me know how it goes. Always be looking. When you see a handwritten sign with any piece of real estate for sale, if we go back to number 5, buy weird shit at the right price, pull over. Just pull over. You know what you can do now? Just take a picture of the sign. It's easier than my dad writing little scribble notes on paper and ripping them and keeping them all by the door, so that when someone opens the door and the wind blows in, all of his little papers go on the ground. And he goes, oh my God, all the papers are on the ground. ABL, always be looking. Be like that in real life. I mean, just be out for a drive. You see a self-storage there's 10 storage bays, but it looks like there's a lot more acreage. That's an opportunity. Why? Because you can just double up on the storage there. That's a mom and pop thing. Again, remember, when you're participating in ABL, always be looking. The worse the sign looks, the better. And it's the same for yard sales. Go back to my dad's OG principle. Go to every yard sale, talk about the real estate. So when you see that there's a yard sale sign, go to the yard sale, ask about the real estate. Number 7, this is something that every guest who's ever come on the podcast has agreed with or said in some part. Everything is about relationships, proximity story too, because I'm always trying to put that data into my head to build better relationships. But of course, referring to something I said before, you build better relationships by being straightforward, honest, and trustworthy. If you're not going to build good relationships because no one's going to trust you. And you can't build strong relationships without trust. So when you say you're going to do something in a transaction, you do it. When you say you're going to get back to someone about a transaction, like if you have an off-market seller, I was on the phone text. I was on the text with one. He said, call me Monday. I don't really like the property, so I didn't call him, but I should have texted him and said like, yeah, you know what, property's too close to the road. So I'll probably get back to that. That's my bad. But I also knew like, I don't really want that property. But the thing about building relationships, if you build a strong relationship on just one property and you haven't done your due diligence, you may later, just by talking to them, find out they own 7 properties. Now you're looking at alternative opportunities there. And the only way you can get that information other than searching the tax records is just by building a strong relationship, being a good person. Most things really come down to just being a good person, being friendly, being nice, being respectful of others. Building relationships when you're trying to call on foreclosures, which is very hard, means being respectful. You don't lead with the foreclosure. I mean, that seems like a no-brainer to me, but if you look at all the scripts that a lot of these dummies put out there, they're leading with the, hi, this is Bob. I know your house is in foreclosure. I have a cash offer for you. Just spit in their face. It's just ludicrous. I mean, people just aren't thinking. Maybe AI is better at that, but I don't know. On the back half, 6 is ABL, always be looking. 7, everything is about relationships. Let's go. Number 8, this one is really hard for me. It was really hard for me. It's not as hard. No, it's still hard for me. Honestly, I'm not a people person. In case you didn't know, just ask Crystal Watkins, who's worked for me for 10 years. I'm just not a people person. They really annoy me. There's just a lot of glitches, and I have a lot of glitches. So I probably annoy other people as well. But number 8, one of my dad's core principles of life, always see the good in people. I was such a negative kid that I remember him, he'd like pick me up from boarding school, and like 2 hours in the car, I'd just be like bitching about everything. Oh, I tried to date this girl. She didn't like me. This guy, said I had a big nose. I can't believe, I had to go to school with a band-aid over my pimple. Like these are all real stories. But I would just be like bitching up a storm about people and what they did to me. And I'm such a victim. And I wasn't a victim. I was, my dad did well. He treated me well. I was very fortunate. I was at boarding school, so I should have been like appreciating the opportunity. But every kid has their time. I definitely had my time. But he would always say, well, can't you just think of one good thing about the person? And I was so stubborn. I would just be like, no, there's nothing good. They're an asshole. And now I've opened up the way that I think, and it's helped me a lot. People still really do annoy me, but I tend to try to figure out what good qualities they have. And if I can appreciate them, even if I don't want to have that relationship or friendship anymore, it's important for me to understand and acknowledge the good that they did in my life and the good times I had with them and what good they may do for others. And maybe it's just not like a match, a friend match, or just like a good acquaintance anymore. These things happened. It does happen in my life a lot. I'm strict and rigid with what I will accept from people. So, sometimes people leave my life and I think about that a lot, but I still look back and see the good in them. And I think even your worst enemies are the people who have treated you the worst. If you can find one good thing that they're doing, it's going to help you be a better person, a better negotiator on all ends, because negotiations are tense. Sometimes you're the buyer and the seller is just like complete jackass. Like they're just running you over the coals. They're doing everything wrong. You sit back, that we're talking mindfulness again. This is mindful approach to real estate investing. Take a breath, assume that they have something going on with their life or they're having their own mental health issues, which is very possible. People have their own shit going on. It's most of the time when somebody's being a jerk to you, it has nothing to do with you. It just has to do with them. Maybe you said something that unintentionally triggered something in their life that they feel bad about. Maybe they have a lack of self confidence or self awareness. Maybe they're just having a bad day. Maybe a dog crapped on their foot an hour ago. Maybe they're getting a divorce. Maybe somebody they know is dying. There's so much that can be happening to people when they act up. If you give them the grace and the space to just be okay and think, like, you know what? Actually, our last interaction was good, so something must be going on. I'm going to give them a pass on this conversation. I should tell this to myself more because it is hard for me. It is. I'm rigid and on the spectrum. So when somebody does something a little off course for me, it makes me like really want to just delete them. And I've had to work really hard. I still work really hard to not do that. So if you just keep this in mind to always see the good in people, I think it will help you in real estate. And I think it will also help you in life, because so many real estate deals die because of ego. But if one of the people in these equations, if we're talking back to don't be stingy, but be firm and learn to walk away, if one of the people just gave the other side a little bit of grace when they were being a jerky negotiator, probably close the deal. All right. Number 9, expect partners to walk away. This is a very interesting one. Partnerships suck. They really suck. They don't work out most of the time. I'd say like partnerships are smooth, maybe like 7% of the time smooth, like from start to finish, like no big deal, get along, everything's fine, no hiccups. 93% I'd say does that, like close to disaster mode, at least at one point, most of the stuff gets done. But the same as I think, like if you lend somebody money, you have to assume you're not going to get it back. If you get it back, it's a perk. Unless it's like obviously a hard money loan or something on paper, but like I've loaned money to friends and just it's like I have $8,000 that I lent to someone and it's just gone. I had thought they were going to pay me back, but they didn't, and it's in the wind. So I don't know, what am I going to do? Sue them? I guess they needed the money for something, so I'm just going to ride with that. But it is, and again, things happen to people. Maybe they had best intentions at the time and they just can't work it out. So I'm going to go back to number 8, always see the good in people. And then I'm going to number 9, expect partners to walk away, because it's the same principle. So when you go into a deal and you're the flip version and they're the money, I mean, they may just decide they don't want to do the deal right before you close. So you really have to lock in on this and always have a backup plan, just like you should for any asset that you have. If you're doing a long-term rental, you should have a backup for short-term or midterm or other options if you can. And if you have a partner, you should have a backup plan because the partner could walk away at any time. They could walk away in the middle of the deal, say, "Oh, sorry, I'm broke. I just don't have any money." And they're just going to sign over their rights to you. It happens all the time. So you have to, again, go back to our principles. Everything's about relationships. You got to be working on those relationships so someone feels comfortable enough to tell you in advance so it's not a surprise. But I think if you expect your partners to walk away, you might treat them better. You might build that relationship better. And you may be more open about the money components and the partnership parts before you close that deal. You should always be clear and have everything in writing so you know who's the final decision maker on whatever it is, cosmetic or on money spend. It's hard when it's a 50-50 deal because you can just stalemate each other all the time. So on the back half, we have 6, ABL, always be looking. 7, everything is about relationships. 8, always see the good in people. 9, expect partners to walk away. Number 10, as we finish this up, let people have their story. This is really important for landlords. And it was really important for me as someone who learned how to be a landlord from my dad. I listened to a lot of excuses when I was a teenager because my dad, made me collect the rent. I would go in, I'd hear the sob story. They're 6 months behind. I was like a jerky kid. I'm like, oh, let's just evict them. We had done some evictions. It didn't take as long back then. Even though it was New York, you got the job done back in the day. Um, but one of the things my dad was best at, and I don't know if he ever said it in these words, but he always let the people have their story. I would be with him, maybe I'm 10 years old or something, and we're going to pick up rent from someone. And boy, this tenant's just telling a whopper, like, oh, I got in a car crash, and then I slipped and fell and I'm waiting for a medical settlement. Like we both knew, at 10 years old, I knew this was bullshit. But my dad just sat there and listened. Oh, I'm really sorry to hear that. You think you can, when you get back on your feet, we'll get this all worked out. I understand. My dad was just nice to people and he understood. Now you have to think of it this way. They're only a couple months behind. They have a good story. Their upkeep on the apartment is good. And he's thinking, how much is it going to cost me to try to get them out in the state of New York, which is not easy, clean the place, hope they don't put rocks down the toilet, then get a new tenant. That could take 6 months to a year in New York. That's why my dad let people have their story, because he played out all the scenarios and this one was still a better option. So when I came home and I see 6 months behind 3 separate tenants, he was sure that that was still going to be the better way. And if I'm being honest, he was always right. The people always ended up paying. The only people that we ever really had to evict were on foreclosures, and we would let them stay for 2 years. But as I finish this up, I want to talk to you about one principle that goes to this on letting people have their story and about how thinking the long game is always going to be the best in the short. You've heard the story about how Don't Rush Life came up was when I was driving. My dad basically taught me how to drive. My mom was too scared to drive with me. And I had already moved back to the north to go to boarding school when I was driving. So my dad, when we would be on going from in New York and we're on the throughways and there's a lot of toll booths, I would be like kind of like weaving in and out of people. I think I'm like Cole Trickle in Days of Thunder, and he would be shitting his pants in the passenger seat. And then one time he said there was another guy who was like honking at me and like swerving and going fast and then changing lanes. And he said, just this once, do this for me. From this toll booth to the next toll booth, just stay in the middle lane and let this guy do his like histrionics, and let's just see if we're ahead of him at the next toll booth. Guess what? We were ahead of him at the next toll booth because every time he would move into the fast lane, then it would be the slow lane and he was herky jerky and then he would get caught. And I was just slow and steady, just like Jerry Seinfeld, even Steven. And my dad's name was Steven. And that's what he believed. And that goes to letting people have the story because you understand they're going to appreciate you more. They're not going to do anything. But if we go back to 2, don't be stingy. but be firm. At some point, you will have to be firm in that. But he knew that there was a line, and he would let them get all the way to the line and then go over it 1, 2, 3 steps because he liked them and he wanted to be a good person, and he never wanted to put anybody out on the streets because it just hurt his karma. So when you get to it, allow people to have their story, even when it's complete bullshit. You know it's fake. You know they're not delaying because of that. Just let them have their story if you can figure it out on your end. Again, I hope you're appreciating these episodes. I'm going to run through the top 10 for this episode, the 10 real estate investing lessons for my dad before we hop off. But like I said, if you have suggestions for solo episodes or guests, you can always hit me up on LinkedIn. You can go to the website, pop it in there. You can find me on social. I'm easy to find. Trust Greene with an E at the end. Those are really the best ways. And again, I really appreciate you listening to the podcast. We're almost at episode 350. We're still trucking along. I still love the podcast. And if you listen to the episode that came out today when I'm recording, you'll understand that the long version is educational for me. I want to make the episode that came out today when I'm recording this is how to talk to your kids about real estate. Go back and listen to that episode. It will tell you what the past, present, and future of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing is and was. So the 10 real estate investing lessons from my dad that I just told you: 1, don't rush life. 2, don't be stingy, but be firm. 3, learn to walk away. 4, sell anything if someone will pay you enough. 5, buy weird shit at the right price. 6, ABL, always be looking. 7, everything is about relationships. 8, always see the good in people. 9, expect partners to walk away. And 10, let people have their story. This was my story and my episode. I'll see you next episode. Thanks for sticking around to the end so you can get a preview of what's coming up on the next episode of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing. And we're going for a three-peat. For the first time ever, I'm doing 3 solo shows in a row. It is getting harder to book. I'm waiting on a bunch of people to book, but I'm really enjoying the solo shows, as I've been telling you over and over. I hope you are too. And now I'm going into my bag on something that I've never done myself, but I've counseled so many people to do it. I figured out all the ways to do it well and why people are doing it the wrong way. Next episode, everything you need to know about house hacking. Tell your friends. See you next episode.